Okay, well, welcome to our fourth webinar for the American Miniature Horse Association. I'm Cheryl Peterson, the president of the association, and I would like to introduce to you our presenter for the day, Bridget Yates. Bridget is a 10-time AMHA showmanship and world champion. She's been involved in AMHA for 19 years, since the age of 4. Now she is 23. She has received showmanship titles in every division, 7 and under, 8 to 12, 13 to 18, amateur and open. She's also been able to mentor numerous youth in AMHA and has seen them become world and reserve champions. Showmanship has always been her favorite and the most important event for herself. This class exhibits leadership in the relationship between a horse and a showman. Showmanship reveals your horsemanship and how well you can exhibit a horse. I believe showmanship, or she believes showmanship to be the foundation of all classes. If you can master showmanship, you can excel at all events. In this PowerPoint, she will be talking about practice, training, prepping, conditioning, grooming, attire, and showing. So with that, Bridget, I'm going to turn this over to you.
All righty, sounds good. Okay, so I first wanted to talk about the rule book, and I will be talking about this kind of throughout my PowerPoint. And something that really stands out in the rule book is the fact that the horse is your prop, and you are judged on your ability as a showman. Yes, it does matter how well your horse executes the items in the pattern that they need to do, but it's also judged on how well you show and exhibit that horse. So the rulebook breaks it down. Appearance of the exhibitor is 10 points. Appearance of the horse is 40 points, breaking it down from conditioning, grooming, trimming, and tack. Then later we will discuss showing horse in the arena, which is 50 points. Patterns, leading, posing, poise, alertness, and merits, 20 points as well. So in the first half of this PowerPoint, I will be discussing the appearance. Then I'm going to go into some training, and then I'm going to talk about showing. So the first one I want to talk about is conditioning. So that is 15 points on a judge's card. We don't want to have our scrawny horses out there. We don't want to have any enormous horses out there. We want our horses to be fit and conditioned. It's just part of the presentation. It makes it look nice. Having a fit and conditioned horse helps with the overall presentation. So you can round pin, or if your horse is a driving horse, you can drive them. My horse is a driving horse, so we get him in shape and condition by driving him and doing the round pin work. If you want to fit your horse, it's good to do it at least 3 times a week to help just get them in shape. It really helps, and you want to get all those 15 points if you can for conditioning and having a conditioned horse. Next, I would like to talk about grooming in attire. So grooming is 15 points and the exhibitor appearance is 10 points. So having a clean hat with a good shape that fits your face, wear something that complements your horse's color, and groom your horses before the class. I don't know how many times I've seen someone not have a groomed horse at the class. I like to gel the mane. I like to look like I'm about to go in a halter class and a showmanship class. Like my horse is going to be spotless just because I think it looks super nice and it makes it a full picture. What you're required to wear. So you're required to wear a hat, boots, jacket, a long sleeve shirt or jacket, and pants. So here, Lana and I, we have our hats shaped nicely. They're clean. Our hair is back in a bun, slick back. We have makeup on. Our outfits are complementing our horses. She has a dark gray to black outfit on, looks nice with her silver to gray horse. I have a black horse, gray outfit on. Everything matches. It's all super clean. We look polished. Our horses are groomed. So it's not required to match your horse. I just think for the overall presentation, it looks really nice and creates a really nice picture. So horses grooming. We want to have a clean coat, mane and tail free of tangles, horses hooves trimmed, tack to be clean for an overall appearance of 40 points. If you can get these 40 points when you can, then that's awesome. So this is a picture of how my horse looks before he goes into showmanship. Gelled mane's not going to move, nice shine on his face, clean tack, hooves done, looks really nice, and his coat is shiny. So here's a video of me getting ready before showmanship at the World Show. I'm putting my tack on. My horse's mane is gelled down. My hair is in a bun, slicked back. My horse is groomed nicely. And that's what I wanted to show with that video. This video, you can see my hair is in a bun. My outfit is clean. My horse's coat is very shiny and his mane is gelled down. Sorry. Okay. So now I'd like to talk about some practice and training tips. These can work for tuning up your show horse or for training a new horse. This is actually the first thing I trained when I trained a showmanship horse is repetition with squaring and stopping. I call it walk, stop, square or trot, stop, square. So it's definitely important when you're training a new horse. Repetition really helps when you want to get them to set up automatically. As soon as your body turns to them, they're going to step square. If you do this just a few minutes every day, just squaring up your horse. The littlest rein movements as possible is the best in showmanship. So that's the idea. You don't want to have to move your rein too much. Of course, when you're in the practice pen, you're going to move it a little bit more. But if you do this every day for 5 minutes, just squaring up your horse, he's going to get used to your body language of when you turn to that horse and you have your reins there, step and square for you. So I'm going to play this little video. So you'll see, doesn't square right away. I'm having to use my rein a little bit, but he still squares up pretty quick. Walking, stopping, turn to him, square. That time I didn't have to use as much rein, so that was good. Trot, stop. He already kind of squared up, but he was a little under himself, so I wanted to bring him out there. Trot, stop, turn. He already kind of squared up, but he was a little under himself, so I brought him out a little bit right there and squared him back up. So this is the same thing on this side again, just important repetition and a great training technique and training aid for showmanship. Get your horse in the rhythm with you and in the rhythm of squaring up without you even having to ask. So trot, stop, square. Hardly had to use my reins there. Really nice. Working off my body. Stops really good with me. Squares up. Throw in a little pivot in there every now and again. Trot, stop, step square. Hardly having to use my rope. Staying beside me. Squared up right there, a little under himself, so I brought him back out for that setup. And just again, same thing, just a good repetition for practice. Throwing in some pivots, getting working off my body. Nice square right there. I like it when a horse squares up after their pivot. Just looks smoother for the overall presentation. So I just like to practice this, especially with the ones you're first training. It's really important. Next slide. Okay, so this is another training technique. It's the off the body test. So you put your rope over your shoulder and see how well your horse stays with how he or she works off your body. This is a cool technique because sometimes without you even knowing it, you'll pull back on your horse to stop them, or you'll move your reins too much to square them, or you'll try to push them with your arm when you pivot them. So it just really helps you not do that and see how well your horse really works off your body. Complete body control. If they don't stop with you when you complete this and try this at home, then back them up to where they're even with you until they eventually stop whenever you stop your body. Really get your horse paying attention to you. I really like this training aid. Test this at home and see how well your horse stops, pivots, and squares with you. So let's see how my horse Marty does. So you'll see I have a driving whip. Oh, look, he stepped squared right away right there. I have a driving whip in my hand, so if he doesn't trot with me, I'll tap him on his hind end. Make sure he is going with me. Flies are kind of bothering him. Squares up good. Stopping with me. My hands aren't on the rope. It's complete off the body. He squared up without me even moving the rope. I'm going to pivot with him. See how nice of a slack I have with him? Squared up right there. Moving forward. Off my body. Super nice. Stops really good. And squares and pivots off the body without me touching my rein. And we'll talk about more of this on this next slide and about pivoting. So I use that driving whip. If a horse doesn't go forward with me, doesn't trot, I'll tap him on the hind end. Also, when you're training a horse to pivot off your body, it's nice to use that little driving whip to tap him on the shoulder with. So the second you take a step into his shoulder with your foot, you tap him with that driving whip, and he's moving off your body from that driving whip. So he'll kind of get the idea of every time you step into him, he'll start turning away from that pressure. That whip acts as a pressure where you don't actually have to physically use your body to go up on him. You just use that whip to keep that rein space that you want to have in showmanship. So we'll see how he's a trained horse, so he pretty much knows when I'm stepping into him, he's turning away from me, away from that pressure. Nice slack there, stops with me. Second I take a step into him, he's turning. He's going off that pressure, away from it. And as soon as I stop, he stops as well. Even with that space, he stopped in the spot where I wanted to. So I also like to use energy. When I want my horse to pivot quickly, I kind of raise my energy into that step that I take, and he's going. When I know I'm about to shut down from that pivot, I like to lower my energy so he knows that we're about to stop and then move forward to the next stage of that pattern. So here's how I like to hold my arms in showmanship. I like to have them up, kind of like you're holding a tray. Hands closed. You don't want any open fingers. Thumbs on top. In order to kind of help you gauge this, you can get a driving whip, put it behind your back where your elbows are. Rest that right there. Kind of just helps you hold your back and your posture right. And you always want to kind of put your weight in your arms, so that way you don't have any arms that are moving around. You have nice, strong arms. It's very distracting when your arms aren't strong. You really want to hold those arms there. I kind of put my shoulder weight down into my arms to hold them there so they don't move. So inspection dance and when to cross over. There's two different ways a judge can walk around you, clockwise or counterclockwise. First video is going to be clockwise. And you will see when I make the movements, it's going to be at the shoulder, past the tail, before the shoulder, and at dismissal. When the judge says thank you, I will then cross over. In the second video, the judge is going counterclockwise. As soon as that judge takes a step, you want to go to the other side. As soon as the judge gets to the hip, you want to go to the other side, past the tail, go to the other side, and at the shoulder. So we will watch that. So right there, at that first shoulder, past the tail, crossing over, right before that other shoulder. Our horse is giving good ears. He's paying attention. He's standing there good. The judge said, thank you. I said, you're welcome. And I crossed over. Now, the judge is going to go counterclockwise. As soon as that judge takes a step, I'm going to the other side. Horse standing there good, before the tail, after the tail, and up by that shoulder again. And you stay there until dismissal on that side. Now, for the footing, there's a few different ways you can move across your horse. I'm demonstrating just one in this one. In the next slide, I'll demonstrate another one. This is probably the one I use most of the time. Sometimes I like to change it up. Just kind of depends. It definitely comes down to preference and what way feels best for you and what you can execute the best. Um, this one, I'm going to do the inside leg closest to the horse, outside leg together. You always want to keep your feet together. You don't want to have spaces in between your feet. Just looks nice to keep those feet together for a polished pattern. So here I'm going to go inside, outside together, inside, outside together, inside, outside together. And I just continue that to show the way that I cross from side to side on my horse. You can watch a few. I drop my hand down when I cross. I find it easier to be a little bit in front of your horse to make it easier to cross over, so you don't have to drop your shoulder so far down, because if you're real up close to your horse, it makes it harder, kind of awkward. You're going to really have to drop your shoulder down to get underneath that nose. So here I'm showing an exercise really helpful for beginners. The dance that I call it always feels super awkward when you're first starting. So getting a chair and a lead rope really helps you establish your footing, making it smooth, because it will feel awkward at first. So I just find it helpful. I used to practice this in the house all the time just to make sure my dance would be smooth as I would cross over the horse. I'm also going to show a few different examples of a crossover. The first two are going to be good examples. The one that I just did prior to this slide, the inside, outside together. And then there's another one where you can kind of step out, cross with the inside leg, outside together. The last two are going to be bad examples that a lot of kids that I have mentored and helped in showmanship, some of them kind of did a bunny hop and kind of a spin. You just want to have a nice, strong core and upper body, little upper body movements. You don't want to be moving your shoulders around. You really want to be the littlest movements possible is the best. So right here, I'm going to do the inside outside together across a chair. This is helpful with stepping across something, having that chair. This one I step out and across, step out, inside, outside together, step out, inside, outside together. That one is a bad example where you kind of hop your feet together and my upper body is moving. That's the spin I've seen done. Just kind of spinning that upper body. You want to make sure it's still. And I also wanted to go back and talk about one thing on this video. So see how my toes are facing the horse or the chair, and my body will be facing the judge. So I always like my lower body, my toes to be facing the horse, toes to the horse's toes, and my upper body will always be facing wherever the judge is and my face. So that way the judge knows you're paying attention to them, your eyes are on them, you're going to know what moves they make. They might play something tricky on you on the dance. You never know. But you're paying attention to where that judge is. Upper body to the judge, lower body to the horse. So overall practice points for the horse. You want to make sure the horse is stopping good with you. You don't want him to be going past you. You don't want to have to pull back your rope to stop him. Step square. That repetition helps. So when you turn to your horse, the horse knows to step square. You don't have to be playing with your rope for that long. Because when you set up at the judge, you don't want to be spending more than 10 to 20 seconds setting up your horse. You want it to be snappy. You want it to be going. You want your horse, as soon as you turn, to be stepping square right then. You want the horse to move off your body, so that way you don't have to use your rein that much. Now, it's okay to use your rein, just better to use it the least amount of times as possible. And if you do use it, try to hide it. I don't like to use my rein. I really try to do everything off the body. Now, sometimes you get in a predicament where maybe your horse isn't paying attention or something. You might have to use it a little bit, but just be as smooth about it as possible. Pivots, exercises I told you with the driving whip really helps teach that horse to move off the body. Pace. If you have a faster horse or a bigger strided horse, just figure out how fast you can go with it and finding your pace together with your horse. My horse is a classic horse. He has a pretty big stride. I kind of have to really make those steps to really engage him into a trot. He doesn't have a short pace trot. I really have to move up into that trot. Straight lines. How does your horse kind of counter bend? Does he stay really straight when you make those curves and those straight lines? You really want to focus on that because that's what a pattern is. It's straight lines, curves, pivots, and backing up. For a person, you want to have good posture. You want to have your arms and know your footing. Before I go into a pattern, I want to know my footing. I know all the patterns in the rule book. I've practiced all of them. I know every single one of them. And I know the footing that I would do and use to complete each of those patterns. Now, combining the practice points for the horse and for the person, combining those two together and finding your cadence and rhythm and pace with your horse is really important. You really want to work as a team. You really want the judges to know that you are out there together and you are one fluid movement together as a team. Like we said, the horse is a prop and you're being judged on yourself, but the horse can make you look good if he knows what he's doing. So once again, back to that rule book, showing a horse in the arena, 50 points. Based on patterns, leading the horse is 15 points. Horse should be alert and lead readily. I want you to think about this one because I'm going to be showing 4 different horses and their showmanship patterns, and you can look at the difference between them. Posing, 15 points. Stand to the front facing the horse. Always be able to face your upper body to the judge and lower body feet to the horse. Like I said earlier, do all the showing with the lead strap. That's what the rule book says. Off the body is better though, just to knowing that. And no touching your horse. You want to do everything just with the lead or off the body. Don't crowd other exhibitors or the judge. Make sure when you're trotting up that you're not on top of the judge. They probably don't like that. They want to be able to have some space in between there. Plus, if you're going to set up and stand in front of your horse a little bit to do your crossovers, you want to have that space so where you have enough room to do that and not being on top of the judge. And don't crowd other exhibitors. If their horse were to move, or if your horse were to move, you don't want them bumping into the other horses. So just make sure you have some good space when you line up in that lineup. Horses should stand solid at the cone and the lineup. Be aware some horses rest their foot. If your horse rests a lot and you know that, be sure to look back every once in a while and fix that mistake. Make sure he's standing square. I'm lucky that my horse right now, he never rests his foot. But I used to have a horse that would always rest his foot. I would literally have to look back all the time and make sure he was standing there solid in the lineup. Poise, alertness, merits, 20 points. Be aware of the judge's position. Show your horse at all times. Recognize your horse's faults and correct them, just like if your horse is resting. And sometimes if you're at the judge and your horse moves his foot forward, kind of fix it. Like if you can subtly. I know that I'd be able to subtly just by picking up that rein. How you teach him to square, just pick up that rein and he'll move his foot back. So if he does that, don't leave it there. Correct it. Even though you'll be doing the dance, you have to make it smooth. Correct it if you fix it. The judges want to see you fix your mistakes. So maybe they look down, maybe they didn't see it, and you fix that in time. So you just want to be able to look the best you can at all times when you're presenting your horse, in respect to the judges. So I'm going to show you for 4 horses and how they complete the pattern. This is one of my really old show horses. He's a little slower, a little shorter, and you'll see that I'm having to pull him quite a bit. So right there when I first walked off, I kind of had to pull him. He's kind of not wanting to go. Kind of had to drag him up into that trot. Completes the circle nicely. Stays by my side. I'm kind of having to slow down to be with him. Little choppy. Didn't stop right away with me. Had to really use my hand to square him. And now pivoted him. Completes the pivot good. Off the body. Nothing really special about his go. He wasn't lively. There's no spark about him. He's kind of dead, just kind of going through the motions. I really like having a taller horse in showmanship just because I have long legs. It makes it easier for me to do a crossover on him. Something that I find that helps if you do have a shorter horse to stand more in front of them. That way you don't have to drop your shoulder down so much when you cross over. You can kind of being in front of them and having that space really helps you get that rope across. Now, horse number 2. This is a mare I started a while ago. She's competed some, never really finished her. She's a brood mare now, so she hasn't done this in a while. I really like where she carries her head really low. I think it looks nice. Transitions to trot nicely. Kind of counter bending on this circle, not really paying attention to me. Little chargy right here. Kind of had to slow her down with my rein. Walking her up. Stop. Didn't really stop with me that good. Sets up nicely. Lets me cross over, but not really paying attention. Kind of in her own little world. Not really having that much fun. I kind of had a bumper with my rein right there. And when I stopped, I had to pull her back. And she stepped out of that pivot a little bit. Overall, not real smooth. Kind of all over the place. The next horse I wanted to show y'all is this bay horse. He's been shown a lot. The only thing his main fault is he has a really bad counter bend, since he always looking out of that circle, nose out. Not really where I want him. Kind of not really off my body. Wanted to be on top of me in my pocket right here. He's gonna turn his nose into me. Not really, kind of just out of it. Not real great. Kind of just standing there with his ears back. Just going through the motions. Didn't want to go off my body on this turn at all. I went past him, completed it slowly. Didn't square up real great right there either. Horse number 4. This is my main show horse, Marty. He really moves off my body nicely. He doesn't show as good in the practice pen as he does at a horse show. I think he knows the difference, but still goes through the motions nicely. Really off my body. Trotted and made that circle really smooth. I didn't get the best setup right here, but just wanted to demonstrate that. Usually he's pretty good about giving his ears. He didn't move his head at all, kept it really straight. As soon as I stepped into him, he was ready to go. I really like how he pays attention to me. He squared up right there. Gave a little bit of ears right there. And he stops really nice. So that's kind of the difference between all 4. Like we said, you want a horse that readily walks. You don't want to have to be pulling on him. I wasn't pulling on this last horse. First one, I was really having to pull on him a bit. It's just really nice to not have to make those most arm movements with that rein. You really just want to do everything off the body. So I want to talk about showing in the warm-up. Before I show, I like to break up the big parts of the pattern and practice them before I go into the arena. You don't have to run the full pattern. I just like to take like the pivot to the back up to the other pivot. It just keeps it fresh on my horse's mind, and just knowing that he's able to complete that challenge is good before you go in because it gives you that confidence. Here, you'll see my horse didn't really want to back up in the practice pen, so I had to kind of get on to him a little bit probably before I went in, make sure he is really backing up. Just a refresher before that class really helps so he knows to get off my body. So here, I'm just practicing my dance, making sure he's standing good for me. A little slower backup than I would like him to do. We probably practiced it a few more times. Just don't have video of it. Just breaking down those parts of the pattern before you go in definitely really helps for confidence reasons. So this is a regional championship pattern from last year, and we're going to talk about this class. I like this pattern. I won this class. My horse is really smooth in his transitions. There's only one thing that I didn't like, and I'll tell you at the end. Trot's very forward. He's quick but smooth, and it's not a rush pattern. We're doing everything quick, but we're not rushing it. He squared up nice right there. Really smooth. Love his ears. Pleasing to watch. Has a nice smooth gait. I love his stride. I think it's really nice to have a showmanship horse with a long stride. He stands really good for me. Squared up really nice. I would have liked him to step square before that pivot, but you know, if it was going to take too long, you just kind of have to go with it. Only thing I didn't like is that little skip he did at the end. I'll replay it. Sometimes if I kind of pull him forward because I'm nervous he's not going to trot, he'll kind of do a little skip hop. That's like our only real flaw as a combo. That's just me getting ahead of him. My first transitions are really smooth, and he has really nice transitions, which I really like about him as a showmanship horse. I love his ears, and I like the pace that we stay. Every different obstacle of that pattern we complete, the pivot, the backup, the trot, the walk, we're all going the same pace. It's smooth. We're not doing things slow, but we're not doing them rush. We're quick yet smooth. Okay, here is a world championship pattern. I actually think I was reserved. This was the Open in 2019. I think I was reserved to Lana. It's a good pattern. Not my best pattern, but I feel like it really illustrates a pretty crisp pattern. He's going through the motions real smooth, squared up nice right there. Trot, kind of skipped. I'm a little close to that cone than I would have liked, but this pattern was really tight, and he's a big horse, and I really wanted to illustrate that trot right there. Smooth stop. Squared up nice. Doing the dance. He stood there really good. Really smooth. Pretty good backup. And a nice trot right here. So my overall tips for this whole presentation would be off the body, be one with your horse, togetherness, smooth cadence, teamwork, find that pace with your horse. Find something that sets you apart, be different. Know some trends, but make it yours, make it different. I try to change stuff up all the time so I can set myself apart. Know your patterns, really helps ease the nerves when you already kind of know your pattern before it's posted. Set your pace. Know your footing in the steps and how they work with your horse. relax, and find the middle between being sharp and smooth. And I'm done. Any questions? Hello? Any questions?
Bridget, I have a question.
Yeah.
When you back up, are you in front at the horse's nose backing up or just off to the side, or do you change it up? Had some judges comment about not being directly in front of. So I always wondered about which is best, or
I'm always directly to the side of him. Now, sometimes you might be a little bit in front when you first take that first step, but when I go, I like to be on the side of them. But it's kind of like a front side, if that makes sense. Because I'm never right beside my horse. I like off the body. So I would say I'm off to the side. It's probably hard to tell in the pattern.
We have another question too. When you say the outfit to match the horse, are you thinking coat color, the same base color, or a complementary color?
I think complementary. I wouldn't probably wear brown with my horse. That's like the only things I mean. But blue, red, just something that complements your horse. I know I can actually probably share something later. I look at some big horse stuff for showmanship all the time, and they have like a color wheel for what color goes best with your horse kind of thing. Our hobby horse has it, so I can look that up and post that under my thing. That would work. But no, it doesn't have to be the same color as your horse.
Okay, another question is, when you have a green horse, how do you get them to, how do you square them before, when you have a green horse, how do you to square them starting? I guess, how do you get them to square up?
So you just mess with their feet with your rein. If you pull up and back, that fixes their back feet. And if you pull up and forward on your chain, that fixes the front feet. And they won't do it right away, but if you get close and just doing that motion, that really helps. Just up and back for the back feet and up and forward for the front feet.
And then what is an appropriate distance to stop in front of the judge?
So I've always been told that if the judge is standing in front of you, let's see if I can illustrate this, and they have their arm out, they should be able to just step and reach and touch the nose. If you touch really far back on his head, you're way too close. You just want to step forward and just touch the nose. So if you're practicing at home with someone and you want to gauge that distance, just have them take a step and reach to touch the nose.
And then how much correction is reasonable when you're at the judge or in the lineup?
This is a hard one. I would say at the practice shows, like at local shows, correct your horse as much as you can because it's just a local show. When you get to world show, you really don't want to be making those corrections. But I mean, if your horse is making mistakes in the pattern, correct them. That's how I feel about that. If one of my horses makes a mistake in the showmanship class, I'm going to correct it, but I want to try to be sneaky about it, if that makes sense.
Okay, now how do you teach your horse to square? And what do you do to correct him if he rests his foot?
Like I said earlier with my training techniques, just go out there, walk, stop, and square. To square your horse, you won't have that lead line space yet. You're going to be a little up closer when they're in training, closer to the halter. And you go up and back to fix the back feet and up and forward to fix the front feet. It's just repetition. They'll learn how to do it. just playing with their feet and bringing them up and back just really helps.
Then how do you correct a horse that rests a foot?
My Palomino horse never really got out of it. I just would, every time I would see him rest it, I would just push his weight back onto it. Just like you would go for like a backup, I would just basically like reset him, but not reset him, just pushing his weight back onto that rested foot. I don't really know how to get him out of it. I was lucky with my new horse or my black horse that he's not real lazy and he doesn't rest it. I just would correct it every time. Knowing in the lineup he was going to rest, I would just glance back at his foot and just push that weight back onto that foot. And he never got out of it, but some horses, if you correct it enough in the lineup, maybe they'll eventually stop doing it. It just kind of depends on your horse and how willing they are. My horse was kind of stuck in his ways a little bit, so he never really got out of it. But I would correct it.
Okay, this is a longer one. When you cross over, sometimes I see what I refer to as dipping your hand. So the lead goes under the muzzle. What do you suggest when you have a shorter horse and you're crossing over, so you don't have to dip your hand? Is there a penalty for dipping the hand?
That would be a judge's perspective. It's really hard for minis to not dip your hand because in big horses, their head's above your hand. So when you cross over, you don't have anything in the way. The easiest thing I think of when you have a short horse is standing more in front of your horse. If you're really close to that horse, you're gonna have to dip that shoulder down to get under it. But if you can step, if this is your horse and you can be in front of it when you cross over, you won't have to dip your rein as much. Also, if you have more lead line slack, if your horse works off your body real good, you won't have to dip your rope down as much. You'll be able to just kind of cross it under their nose more. But if you kind of have to have a tighter hold on your horse, then you would probably have to dip down more. But it would be best to just learn how to keep that slack for your horse. That way it makes crossing over easier. And just having that space in front of your horse really is helpful. Don't be on top of your horse. Show the judge that your horse can work good for you with the space, that you have control over them, even if you're in front of them a little bit.
Okay, next question. When you cross over at the judge, should you nod your head as you cross over to indicate that you're checking their feet?
That comes down to preference. In this video, I want to go to this video. I checked his feet. You don't have to check feet. That is just style and preference. I don't check every time I go look at the feet. I check maybe twice. I think you can overuse that method. Right there, I did it. If you could tell, I can go back. Right there, and I drew it right there, I think. You see, I didn't do it any other times. I think it gets old when you do it too much, so some people don't do it very smooth. I do it more like a look back and kind of a chin up style rather than like a lean and like up, because it can get really dramatic, especially with how small the horses are and how short that makes the dance period or the inspection period, because the judges walk around pretty fast. So if you're going to do it, I would just try to make it as smooth as possible. It's fine to do it. That's up to your style and preference. And like I said with the tips, if that's something that you want to do to set you apart and be different, do that. Just try not to overuse it.
That is all the questions I see on the chat. So you can unmute yourself and ask, questions if you would, please. If anybody has other questions, please ask them while we have our expert here to answer them. Wow, you must have done a great job. Nobody has any more questions.
I hope I answered any questions, or if there's any
Cheryl,
beginners
I
that
have
were
a
learning.
question.
Oh, here comes one. Good.
Hi, Bridget.
Hi.
In your opinion, are the styles starting to get away from the excessive gems on the outfits?
On the excessive gems on the outfits.
Yeah.
Is that what oh. I think I like a sparkly showmanship outfit. I don't think you need one. I think it comes down to how well you execute the pattern. Of course, it's not about the outfit. I've had mine for a while because I like it. It fits nice. It does have a lot of gems on it. I think you could go in with just a blazer if you wanted to, as long as everything matches. I do like everything to match. I like, you're gonna wear a black blazer, black pants, black boots, black hat. I like everything to be uniform. I just think it looks really nice. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
really know much about the styles. I I just like it all to be uniform, and I just like something that complements the horse. And like I said, I think the grooming of the horse matters so much, and that is something that I think lacks and really sets me apart in the arena. I always have my horse shined up. Local show, regional show, world show, he's shined up. He looks good, and it really
He looks great in the
shows.
pictures for sure. Thanks.
Bridget,
Yeah.
Bridget, it's Juliana. Question on the gloves. I see some people still wearing gloves, even though we don't have to. What's your
Yeah.
feeling on that?
So I was honestly kind of tempted to wear my gloves last year at World Show. Yeah, you don't have to wear them now. It's not required, like you said. I do like how they look because the skin, having your skin on the hands with the lead rope, it like shows. And then when you wear black gloves on the black lead rope, it kind of looks all as one. So if I would have had gloves, I could not find my gloves. I used to have a problem with finding my gloves all the time. That's why I did not like gloves. I probably would have worn them. It just comes down to preference. I am curious to see if the judges would dock for wearing the gloves or not. I don't know. That would be a judge's question. But I do like gloves. I think they look good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. When you were talking about the horse resting and you're in the lineup or you're just about to present your horse and it's resting, but you can't touch the offset of the hip to get that horse to put its weight back on the hind leg. Do you jiggle then with your lead, or how do you get that horse to square right back up?
So when I practice setting up my horses, I push back and up for the back feet and forward and front for the front feet. So whenever my horse used to rest on me, I would push up and back on that back foot to push his weight back, because it's kind of like how you do the back, and then pull him a little bit forward to kind of reset that foot. Because he used to this is him resting, he would back and it'd be here, and then pull it forward again so it's even, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to show since I don't have a horse. Yeah, you use your lead rope. To do
Okay,
it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any other
Any questions? You've come up with some great ones.
Yeah, y'all did.
Okay, well, I don't see any more questions either. Do you have anything else you want to close with, Bridget?
Nope, I just hope that I was able to kind of break it down for everyone. And if there's ever any questions, feel free to, or anyone that wasn't live on this video, feel free to message me on Facebook, and I'd be happy to answer them for y'all.
Okay, well, thank you very much. With that, I think we'll sign off. We super appreciate your participation and all the work, Bridget, that you put into this today.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you. It was good talking to y'all.
Good talking to you. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.